Welcome everybody to another edition of the Contributor Technical Discussions. We'll have two demos today, followed by a couple of questions and discussions. So to get things started, it's Onbloc first with their demo of the Adena once makes sense wallet. Take it away, guys.
Right. Let me share my screen. Do you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna show a short demo of Adena that we recently released. So Adena has integrated GNOweb. So if you see these Thundermark transaction links on GNOweb, once you click it, the Adena will pop up, and yeah, as you can see here, you can see the proving page, and you can see the function and the realm and these arguments, and yeah, we can try to approve this function call. First, we need to get some tokens. Yep, and so if we, yeah, you can modify arguments here. So let's. And whenever an argument changes, it simulates to see if it's a valid transaction and to get estimated gas fee. And yeah, as you can see, it's succeeded, and we can go to GnoScan to see if it went through. Yeah, as you can see, it's been registered here. Yeah, and we've also added error messages here. So if let's try the same one. Yeah, if you put the same one, it says it's already taken. So yeah, if it fails simulating, you'll know what errors you get. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Awesome. There's a question in the chat. Any easy way to disable the link between Adena and GNOweb?
The link, what do you mean?
Yeah, sometimes we need to click. I want to navigate to that link that goes directly to the help page, and I don't want to open Adena.
Yeah.
To avoid Adena. Now I'm just opening the a Google Chrome tab, a visitor tab, and a tab that there is no Adena installed, and that works. But most of the time I'm on the same tab that with Adena, and I wonder if there is a way to just disable.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not actually sure.
No, I tried to disable the extension, but it's still not working, or it's still being catched by Adena. I think it's just if you remove Adena. but I don't want to remove.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
No problem. It's not important. I will work with a separate tab, Chrome tab. We work.
All right, good job, Onbloc team. Looking forward to using this more going forward. Our next demo is Berty.
Thanks, Lemania. Thanks, Lemania. Yeah. So our demo is more like an expose on which on our approach, for which we would like a bit of feedback, not necessarily in this meeting, but we have we want to make you feel a bit of pain or everybody, so you are motivated to help us a little bit or to share, like to get your feedback on something. Right now, we are working to build Gno Mobile to make it ready for, let's say, commercial use, right? So we make this mobile app ready to do two things: key management and transaction signing for mobile app for browsers on the same device. Which the feature part, we did it. We have proof of concept. It works. We shared it earlier. We also have a first implementation of a UI and UX layer. Thank you, Alexi, for the help again. It was great. We have some nice visuals. It's not yet polished, and before polishing it, we want to make sure, or we want to reasonably reinforce security on this application, right? Because reinforcing security might have UX implications quite obviously. So we don't want to. So we want to wait a bit on the UI until we get security a bit more solid on this one. And now, what do we mean by security? What does it mean for Gno Key Mobile to be secure? How we see it, and also with the help of Christoph, which is not in the call, but I'm sure if we thank him now, he will feel the good karma. Thank you, Christoph. We narrowed two big themes, let's say security themes that we want to do. That we want to make sure they're covered. One of them is the local storage of the keybase, securing where the keybase is stored. So of course, obviously nobody can get access to the keys. And securing the inter-app communication. So from the application that wants to sign something to Gno Key Mobile. Very briefly, not going through everything right now, but just to give you a flavor, local storage of the keybase. There are some methods of security already in place by default on both iOS and Android. Some things are encrypted by default or secured in ways specific to these operating systems. Our question mostly here would be, is this enough? Is this secure enough, right? So we try to take it a bit to the extreme and think, hey, do we need to add something else? We thought about some ideas that could be securing enclaves and things like this, which have some implications that are non-banal. So we would like to just have your thoughts on if this is good enough, right? We'd like to discuss with you, not today, but later, if this is good enough. And another thing that is painful related to securing inter-app communication. Now, inter-app communications means, like, obviously how when an app requires Gno Key Mobile to sign, it has to tell it somehow. They need to communicate somehow, and they do it today through deep links, or in the case of a browser, through universal links. It's a particular type of deep links. We know that this works. So far we worked a lot to get this to make sure that this type of communication method is working, and it does. We have POCs on this, and now we are left asking ourselves: is this secure enough? Do we need to add any security measure? Do we need, or maybe how to say, do you know of any vulnerabilities associated with deep links or attack vectors that we should be worried about? For this, and even if, let's say, we think that these are secure enough, or deep links and universal links are reasonably secure enough, we still would like to have a talk with you, or to have your feedback on some important questions that are derived from this. For instance, this is how a rough version of the social is of Gno Key Mobile is looking right now, and this is the approval page of a signature of a transaction signing. Yeah, and for the moment we don't show in the application, let's say we don't reassure the user that the transaction is coming from a trusted source. So we would need at least to have a talk, if not on security, at least on UX, on how we can reassure users that nobody tampered with the data, with the transaction data, that arrives in Gno Key Mobile, and that when they are using Gno Key Mobile, they are not signing something that is coming from a malicious source. All right. So we did some research around here on various things, how we can consider this case. So sharing with you this pain, which is not banal. I mean, it's really keeping us from jumping in and polishing further the application. We have a let's say a big ask, knowing how occupied you are, but it would help us if we can have a dedicated conversation around security topics and their implications, even if it means identifying new security areas that we need to improve, or even if the security is good enough through the existing mechanisms. Questions like these ones, reassuring the user on the transaction source, which I remember Jay asked last time when we showed him the app. He was concerned about this. We would like to have your input on this, and to have your, let's say, brain assisting us. So yeah, this is what I wanted to talk to you today, and it's a warning that we're going to try to hunt you down and come after your time and brain power on this one. Alexi, Christoph, Manfred for sure, but anybody else that volunteers, we're happy to talk about it. Yeah. Again, we're not waiting for unless you have immediate feedback or something, or something comes to your mind. It's more like a warning, a gentle warning from us that we're coming after you. Thank you.
If nobody has any comments right now, we can then sync later to see when we can sync up on this and discuss it.
When it makes sense. Yeah. Sure. Thanks so much.
No problem. So this brings us to another discussion that we want to have. Antoine wants to talk about the Gnoland treasury concept that he's working on. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of unknown, and this is a great opportunity to pick everybody's brains and get some useful feedback.
Yes, hello everyone. So I will just send the link of the related issue in the chat. Okay, so I started working on this and discussing it with Antonio and Geronimo and Michel. I'm not sure of what needs to be done exactly. Like, what are all the implications of the treasury? What you need to have as a feature, and how it should be implemented. Like, basically, in the issue, it's mentioned that it should be compatible with DAO proposal and with other DAO. But I'm not sure if it means that this implementation of the treasury should use the interface defined in rgov DAO /types.gno, so the one used by GovDAO. And if this is the case, if we use this interface, it means that all the DAO, the other DAOs that want to use this treasury will need to stick to this interface. So I'm not sure of what is the plan about this.
what are you talking about? You are talking about the treasury or a generic treasury system?
I think the issue mentioned something generic, like
So if it's sorry.
In the key point in the acceptance criteria, you have the reusability of the treasury. So
Okay.
for the GovDAO and other DAO.
So GovDAO is very special. It has an interface allowing to create new implementations, the V4, the V5. We can also expect some people to reuse the same interface if they want to. It's an advanced system with a way of having pre-event, post-event, and everything. So basically, it's more complex than something minimal. And the thing is, we will expect several ways of doing DAOs on Gnoland, and we need to create new interfaces, simple DAOs, where what we can expect is that GovDAO directly is compatible with, or maybe GovDAO is compatible with through a wrapper or something. So no, it won't be GovDAO because GovDAO interface has a role of allowing to create various implementations. But what you're looking for is not how to create a DAO. What you're looking for is how to manage something through how to manage something, a treasury or whatever, from a DAO. And here you just don't care about members, about votes. What you do care about is, okay, my DAO has a way to register a new proposal, and I have a way to just check if the proposal is passed, or maybe to just being called when it's passed, and you just don't care about anything else. So we'll have another interface at some point, maybe with 1, 2, 3 methods. You won't have the member stuff, the voting parts. It will be implemented, but not in this interface. This will be a DAO interface oriented for proposers, not for DAO implementations. So yeah, this is the beauty of Go. You can expect a single structure to implement several interfaces. And the DAO interface in GovDAO is not about making the simplest proposing system. It's about making an upgradable, advanced DAO implementation.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I got you. Like we need to, like, the treasury, this one needs to be something really generic that can be reused by another type of DAO that is not defined yet, right?
Yep.
So do we need to define the DAO, this generic DAO interface before defining this treasury interface, or?
Before finishing, yes. Before starting, not necessarily. It makes sense. It's like a chicken egg problem. The more generic needs we will have, the more cases we will have, the easier it will be to define this missing interface. But we can also try the opposite, to create an interface that suits most of the needs and then expect needs to be done. So feel free to start, but you won't be able to finish, but you will help finishing earlier. I have a PR with a proposal. I think Hieronymo has another one. Consider that it's an open topic and we'll have several answers. But yeah, once again, the thing is expect Go to allow us to implement several interfaces at the same time, but also to create wrappers. At some point, we can create a wrapper. So an object which is not implementing an interface becomes compatible with an interface. So start basically naively with what you expect. It will be useful. Either it works from day one, and thank you, or if it does not work, it will help. And then we'll just have to make a few changes. So in general, yeah, we should try more things regarding DAOs.
Okay, got it. And just about the feature of the treasury, I'm not sure. Is it something really dumb, like you just can send money to it, and then you can like create a proposal to request fund for someone or something like this, and that's it? Or do we need to have some, because the issue mentioned something about custom rules, but does this rule need to be immutable? Like, is it something when we init the treasury, the first time we init it, we decide some rule, like the example in the issue is this treasury can only send funds to other DAO? Or is it something we want to upgrade to proposal? Like, what is the spec? Not about the interface, but just about the feature we need to have. Maybe I can just start with something really dumb and we will see.
I also have a generic answer here because I don't know what is this issue about specifically, but in general, what we expect in this ecosystem is to make reusable libraries that can allow various things, but we also expect a lot of components developed on Gnoland to at some point become like locked, like they are. We lock them in a way that we ensure users that nothing can change later. The rules cannot change anymore. Nothing can change anymore. So you can say, okay, this part of my Web3 life won't change. I can just ignore it. It worked as expected. So most of the good libraries on Gno will potentially be dynamic, even something where you can maybe change the rules over time. But you can also expect either the rules themselves to be something where the rule can burn itself or something like this, or you can expect systems with dynamic rules to also, I don't know, offer a different constructor which won't expose the dynamic parts, or to have a flag, a toggle, which will disable anything about making things dynamic. So yeah, once again, start with something simple if you want. It's a composable ecosystem. What we can expect is that what you did will work for most of the cases. If it does not work yet, we can fork your library. We can compose it. We can maybe make the rule system more dynamic. It's a good thing to just try simple things first, and then to use the composability, workability to improve over time.
Okay, got it. I totally agree. So I will do something simple first. I also have a last question. This is more about a feature of Gno, or maybe is it something planned, or I think there is no way for a realm to have a handler, let's say, when it receives funds. Like if I send Gnot to a realm, like to trigger some code to have an event, and this event will trigger some code saying, okay, you just received this amount of coin, there is a transaction, and I can do something with it. Like in my case, it will be to be able to display publicly this transaction, the transaction list, who send funds to the DAO, which is something that should be public, I think.
So we have two ways of managing coins through banks with contracts. One of them is from the contract point of view, and then you just write code. It's not an event. It's just you expect someone to send funds by calling one of your functions. So your code is running, and here you have STD bunker allowing you to verify how much was sent. So you can just keep a log of what was just sent by which sender, etc. The other way of sending funds is just to not launch the VM, to use the native blockchain bank module. So if you know the derived package address, you can just send funds with the makeTX send command, not makeTX call. So here you just send funds to an address without specifying a function, a method, or whatever. Here we don't have events, we don't have callbacks. We were thinking about something like this in the future, maybe with a Go channel. You could expect a channel to be something you can consume, so it won't be an event, but you can expect that when you wake up your contract later, you can process what happened recently. So right now it does not exist. It should not exist before a very long time, if ever it exists one day. But what you can expect is to have people sending tokens, not with makeTX send, but by making makeTX call -send. This is what we are always doing by default. And you even have a demo right now who basically allow you to send tokens and log the send. So basically what you are talking about. It's a bank test, RDemo bank test.
Okay, but I can't force people to use this instead of just sending, like, I can't force them to use make TX call instead of make TX send, right? So
you
if
you cannot block make TX send, you cannot block it. But if they have just disadvantage of doing it and it's more complex, you can just expect to make a good UX promoting the good way of doing it. So it will be simpler, better for them because they can have recognition or whatever. But no, we cannot block sending token to the contract directly without triggering the VM yet. And it's not planned to do this. Well, what we plan is to have blacklisting and whitelisting of addresses, but even here, the underlying whitelisting system is not caring if you are making a direct call plus send or just a direct send. So no, I think just expect to make a good UX so that people will just use the good UX and have all the advantage of calling your function.
Yeah, but it's not like for people to get recognition. It's more about transparency, you know, like if someone send fund to a DAO, I think it's a good thing that it's mandatory for the source of the fund to be public. Like
so
it's not
public. It's always public thanks to TX indexers and logs. So blockchain is always public. Though the question is how much we want to make the public data easy to get. And definitely rendering it is the best way. But once again, is there an advantage for someone to send tokens to a DAO and not be recognized easily? It will be verifiable through blocks. So it's not confidential. So do they have a single advantage of not being listed on the official listing?
Yeah, it could, because someone wants to do, I don't know the name in English, sorry, but you know, some government or something want to like induce some change or some stuff on the network or on a particular organization. Yeah, sorry, go on. I saw two raised hands, I think. Michel or Leon.
I think Leon, you were first.
Yeah, basically what I wanted to say, there is a way, there's some really cool math that some people thought about and made, and it's called Tornado Cash. You probably heard about it, and it is basically a cash mixer. It's kind of controversial in the sense that like some governments and some people say it's legal and we shouldn't use it. Some say we should use it because privacy, but that's a different story, right? So it is possible. People could try to make it in Gno. It will be really interesting to see Tornado Cash. But yeah, it's a very complex mathematic algorithm in the background.
Even it's not the same topic because you can just use a central exchange. Using the central exchange will be able to see who you are, but most people won't see who you are. So there are ways to be discreet. The question here is there a single advantage of being transparent through blocks, through indexers, because the transaction will be visible. If you go on GnoScan, you will see the sender. So the question is there an advantage for someone to be less visible but still visible? The government, it's not thanks to make TX send over make TX code that they will be more private. I think if they are donating something, maybe they want to make something by creating temporary keys and using a central exchange to mix with the sender. But at the end, it will be verifiable.
Yeah, I understand. It was just.
I'm really not sure there is anything to prevent on your case. It could be interesting to do it if there is an advantage for them to be partially visible, so just visible in blocks, but not on render. But I don't think that's the case here in your case.
Yeah, but because Gno is meant also. GnoWeb is meant to be used by not only developers or people that are able to check all the block, and even developers won't check the block every day.
Why would they want to hide? It's even more creepy because it's verifiable. It will be seen. it's easy to see, oh, someone made a transaction, we can see it, but it's not visible in render. I'm really not sure you can expect someone serious to say, hey, I can be private. No, they will know that they won't be private by not calling your function, but just sending funds.
Okay, yeah.
If they want to be private, they find a way to get another address, they pass through a central exchange or something like gnoweb. But even here, I don't see any advantage of trying to not be seen by the realm.
Okay. I see Norman also reason, but Michel, can you do you?
I was just curious, how is the treasury fund being funded? Does it take a percentage of the transaction fees? Is the fund provided by the company? How does the treasury realm receive funds and grow?
What? Sorry, but Anton was talking about a treasury library, and you're talking about a specific treasury, right?
Yeah, I was actually curious more on the, I guess,
Which one?
of it. How does the treasury grow and receive funds?
So the main chain treasury, I think. Which treasury are you talking about? Because we have several ones. We probably have one for GovDAO. We'll have one for growth.
Okay.
We probably have other specific treasuries.
I guess all of them. But
so it depends. For the GovDAO treasury, it will be something from the Genesis. Then it will probably receive some rewards, some gas fees. For the growth, it will probably be just an initial giveaway. Maybe Nuclear Mint will have its own treasury, and I don't know how we will manage it, but that's a business detail, and it will be the same case for other businesses. So I think each treasury comes with its own definition and rules and expectations and life cycle. The thing about GovDAO is GovDAO can decide how to change rules to increase fairness, adoption, whatever useful for the ecosystem. What we will decide is what is in the Genesis before GovDAO exists, because we need to define GovDAO and initial rules before we launch the chain. And then GovDAO can make decisions like stopping completely to reward a specific treasury if there was some automatic reward. GovDAO can decide to send a part of their funds to another sub-treasury, sub-DAO with a specific goal. So tomorrow we identify an experiment, a goal or whatever. We can send money to this treasury. We can also expect some gas fees to be automatically allocated to this treasury.
Okay.
Norman, you had a
Norman,
question?
Yes, it's not really on the topic, but just saying that we are working on the porting zero knowledge protocols to GNO. We are in discussions with cryptographers from Aragon research team. For now, we will port the growth 16 algorithm, which requires a trusted setup, but is really efficient on gas. And the goal is to go to transparent protocols that don't require trusted setup after. Our main goal right now is to make voting systems to hide who voted on what, and also, for example, hide who bought tickets on the now and stuff like that, but it could be also used to hide transactions, I think. Just a heads up on that. Sorry to hijack.
Just a question, is the idea to implement the filter like a built-in in the VM, or is it to have a package right in GNO?
Well, if we can have built-ins, it would be nice, but no, right now, just packages. And only the verification part, of course.
Antoine, did you have any other questions you wanted to cover?
No, thank you. I got the idea. I will keep it simple and just not follow all the acceptance criteria for now, and just focus on doing something simple first. Then we will see to make it generic or add more feature and everything. So yeah, thank you.
All right. As the person who wrote those specs, I completely agree. All right, moving over to Berty. Berty had a couple of questions.
Yes, this should be quick. First is this PR. So we did a PR to add the function comments to gnoweb, and that's merged and it's working great thanks to everybody's help. The data structure that uses is this JSON documentation, which is returned by a VM call to QDoc. And so the idea is to look at gnodoc, the command line thing. Of course, right now, gnodoc command line does print function comments, but only from scanning the local files. And we wanted the possibility of gnodoc to query the blockchain, to use the same query potentially for something that's not local. And so to do that, gnodoc is going to have to consume the same data structure. So this PR doesn't add the communication with the blockchain. It's still just reading local files, but it changes everything to use the JSON documentation structure instead of directly using the underlying AST as it is right now. And so this is ready for review. It passes the same tests, kind of runs the same. Most of all the flags work, so you know, in a way, this is mainly for Morgan. I believe wrote the original gnodoc. So hopefully, you could consider this just a proof of concept, but you know, if you like it, it's a sort of a line-by-line functionality of changing the old way, which reads the AST directly, and the new way, which reads everything, uses the information that's in the JSON doc. To make this work, I did in this PR update JSON documentation to include a little bit more information. One is to distinguish an interface from a struct, and the other one is to in the struct to add the fields, right? The fields, because that's important, especially if you want to filter out fields which aren't exported. Anyways, that's it. If you have time, take a look at a couple questions, how to handle a little bit more detail in the interface, and also do we want to include the package bugs? You know, if not, then we can just not worry about it. But this is ready to be looked at and to discuss.
So it was partly, I sort of wanted to open a new tab and close this one instead. Do you have any questions that you need answered, or is it just all on the issue?
These questions.
Okay.
But they're relatively minor. You can read these. Basically, when the GNO code defines an interface, right now the only way we're getting it is just by looking at the signature, but we don't have the details, you know, the individual methods that are defined in the interface. So the easiest way is to hack it, and the struct already has fields. The easiest way to hack it is if the interface has some meth, then we would kind of hack it and define a field where the variable name is meth and the variable type is the function signature. It's just something to think about. And then then gnodoc would have direct access to this and can decide whether to display it or to filter out unexported. I really don't know what it means for an interface to have an unexported field, but it can. So, and likewise, the original thing had a section to print the bugs, and of course that information is not in the JSON documentation. Do we care? Do we want to add it? Just these two questions.
Yeah, I'll answer on the. I'll need a bit of time to think about the first one. Maybe
Yeah.
what you said, but yeah, we definitely need to split the unexported stuff for interfaces, just because it's generally I found it useful. For the bugs, I'd say we skip it for now. Maybe in the future.
Okay, I'll update the description and just say that we're skipping it. Beautiful. Next thing is so. In this is switching themes now to estimating gas. So in the underlying Gno client package, there's now a method EstimateGas, and Remy already demonstrated how we're using that in Gno Key Mobile. That's all implemented, but now there was this new PR which was just merged, which I think adds a new query to query the chain for the gas price, and then it does some fancy, not fancy, just some math. And if you are using the command line Gno key and you do a simulate only, you can give it the transaction and get this nice thing. So and supposedly a much more accurate estimated gas instead of always using a big estimated gas just to make sure. So the question is, what is the relationship between the way this estimates gas and the way gas is estimated in the Gno client? And do we want to update Gno client to use the new method or provide a new function to do it the new way? So hopefully this is clear enough. This appears to be an improvement in gas estimation. So I think it's another question for Manfred. You know, this package. Do we want this to query the chain for the gas price?
You basically, I think, kind of answered the question. We can have an option which gives an accurate estimation but requires calling the chain. And potentially, maybe since it's a free query, we can expect this query to maybe at some point be throttled. So I think it's nice to expect this to be very common, maybe even the default gas estimation from Gno client, from Adena and other wallets. But we should at least have a manual mode, and in the manual mode, usually wallets will give you suggestions, one like cheap, but maybe slow or maybe failing, expensive, high success and high speed, and medium. So the answer is, I think we need to implement in Gno clients this new call. What the real question is, do we want it to be a default? I think it's maybe nice to try for some time to see if, I don't know, we are throttled or if we discover other issues. But it could be nice to start being more accurate in what we send.
Okay, so is it correct that this currently does not communicate with the remote, right? It just this is just a local.
Currently, yeah, I think by default it was an estimation without any call, or maybe with a very old call. The new one is really simulating the transaction. It's like a run dry mode, making a real transaction.
Okay, well, so I think we're agreed that this is useful. We can play around with this and do a PR to experiment with a way to do that. And if we're agreed that it does, it can live inside the Gno client. So we'll work on that. Interesting. Okay, I'll stop here. Stop sharing. Thank you.
All right. right, last item on the agenda, Samurai team.
That's me. I share screen. So I'm again on the package loader questions because I have multiple inputs from different engineers, and I would like to have a final say at before I go again into implementation, because I kind of rebooted the implementation since there was so many conflicts over the time. So I'm going through these questions once again. I'm sorry about that. But so first, about the inputs to the package loading. So you can say that it would be the input, for example. So it is the input of the method in the code, but it will also be the input, for example, of Gno test, Gnolint, Gno FMT. No, not FMT maybe, but all the commands that take like patterns, because that's how the Golang package loader actually works. It takes patterns in the code and the config struct. So first thing, the patterns. In Go, we have multiple patterns that can be used, recursive patterns, the usual /..., which in Golang, actually there is a kind of a requirement, not a requirement, but a good practice, which is that in any repo, you can just run go test /././ in your repo root and run all the tests, and it should work. And also build and stuff like that. It's a good practice. There's also the pattern of a single package, a recursive remote. You can actually do that in Golang, recursive single package, and command line argument list, which you can specify a list of Go files. And if they are in the same directory, it will like create a sudo package with these files and run these files, test these files or run these files. You can't mix the CLI files with other kinds of patterns. And I wonder if you want to support all these kind of patterns. I think yes, except the remote recursive pattern, and maybe even the remote one. No, okay. Because for gnodoc, actually it's useful. So only the remote glob pattern, I think, is not that useful and a bit weird. But it could be useful actually for gnodoc also. So what do you think about this? Should we support all patterns like Go does or not? That's my first question.
I think yes, to me. I mean, I don't see why not. Maybe if one is too complicated, you can maybe like postpone and implement it in another PR to do it incrementally if you feel it's complicated, to keep it simple. But in my opinion, we should definitely support everything. There is no reason why we should not do so, I guess.
What's the case against the remote club?
It's really hard to implement.
Là, il m'entend.
Sorry?
It's harder to implement than others.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe with a recent, like I made like a recent PR for start listing like a pass of a given namespace, and probably we'll see with a given prefix will be maybe helpful for you, like to be able to list your package and then get them, because I think that one of the current constraints is you cannot list the actual package on a remote repository now.
Yes.
So yeah, so with my last PR on adding like QPass for query, you should be able to achieve this, I guess, easily.
Okay, cool.
Let's skip the remote. Like if it's too hard, skip the remote globe for now, and then we can do it at another time.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just if it's something you can implement like by iteration, don't hesitate. Let's focus on having like a good loader system, like a basic one, and then we can always like implement feature and support other things with time.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so the second question is about resolving local dependencies. So okay, one thing about pattern is that you can specify multiple ones. So you can say you can like mix all this except like the CLI args. You could have all these patterns in the same commands, and the loader should resolve all packages and make links between them. And if there is a dependency that was specified in the patterns, it will find it in the patterns first before trying to find it remotely and stuff like that. So there's a lot of complexity in this. And to resolve dependency, we need to have context, like know which, for example, if you have a Go mod and you are CD in a subdirectory of your Go mod and you run go test dot, and this is looking for other dependencies of these packages, it will look like in all your modules packages to resolve these dependencies before searching eventually for remote dependencies. And so this introduces some problems. For example, on the Gno monorepo, we have packages that are like modules. You have one Go mod per packages. And so actually, with the default Golang behavior, you couldn't do like go test dot slash dot 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 in the Gno monorepo. It wouldn't work. So we have multiple solutions to resolve this context problem that I see. Maybe you have other ones. We can take the current working directory as the workspace root, but I think it's really not good because this changes behavior. If you CD in some directory, it won't find dependencies, and it's like not good experience, and especially for Golang engineers, it will like change how it should work for them. So I don't think it's good. Another thing is to only allow to have a single Go mod, Gno mod, sorry. So for example, in the Gno monorepo, we will need to put Gno mod in the example / Gnoland directory, which contains module Gno.land. And then we need to CD into that directory to run the go test command and stuff like that. So this is one way that is kind of okay, but it also forces a hierarchy in your directory. So you have to follow the same hierarchy that you have in that will be deployed. That is the your passes. So you need to put, for example, if you have just Gnoland, you want to have R and P, you will need to put Gnoland R, your namespace, so it forces a hierarchy. I don't think is really the best because also for refactoring, it's introduces complexity. And if you want to move packages around and stuff like that, you can go a little bit around that by using replace directives. But even then, it's a bit weird because you have to CD. Let's say you have two modules, one realm, one package. You have to CD in the realm or CD in the package to be in the context and have the replace directive that are correct. If you move something around, it might break. Like, I think it's cumbersome. The way I prefer is to have some marker for the workspace. So a gno.work, which doesn't use all the Golang workspace stuff, but is just a marker for, okay, this is my workspace root. If you are within this workspace, you will find all modules in this workspace and resolve them by using this root. This is what I prefer. And if you are outside a workspace or module, like the loader will say, okay, I'm outside the GNO context, leave me alone. And another thing is Guillaume suggested to use like the gno.work, but .git, just using the .git. So the advantage of this is that it will, for most repos, it will work out of the box. You don't have to do anything, and then your modules will resolve automatically. But for people not using Git versioning, they will have to put special .git anti.git directory. So it might be a bit weird for some people. But since the world runs on Git, I don't think it's that of a problem. But my favorite way is the gno.work. So what are your inputs on that? What do you think is the best? Do you have other ideas? Thank you. I didn't see who raised their hand first.
Go ahead, Morgan, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I don't want to steal the spotlight. Anyway, I just think, okay, like I still think my take is still the one about that I sort of said on in the call that we had was a while ago in February. So I still think that we should avoid both Gno work. I mean, the Git root is a bit too implicit. The Gno work is better, and we can do that if necessary, but I don't think we need it. So as you know, you reposted from the comment that I made. I think we can have we can have a setup both for the for the GNOME monorepo. I think we can just put like module Gnoland in the examples directory, and that's it, and that resolves only within the monorepo. And then have like for other cases like GNO swap, or just thinking of other repositories outside of the monorepo, we can use have two directories, one with the module name, which then has replaces to maybe say where to look up for the packages, right? So say you have a directory with realms and one with packages. So I'm still of that opinion, and don't know if you have any counter arguments against this.
But simplicity of use, I listed them there. Is like, I think like with the Gno work, you just like touch Gno work, and then you don't have to think about how your packages are resolved. You just create modules and stuff. And with the other your way, you're always to think how are my modules resolved against each other. And also relying on replace directives might like if you have conflicting replace and stuff like that. Like it introduces a lot of complexity. I think, personally.
I mean, you still have a complexity, right? Even if you have GNO work, what happens when you have two directories which have the GNO model with the same path? It's still, you still have cases of conflicts and stuff like that. I just think, I would like GNO work seems that in our case it would even have to be just a file which exists, not necessarily any content within it, right? Because it seems to be something that only exists to mark the root from which to search for packages. So I think the only reason why we're talking about this is because packages and realms live under different paths. So either I think either we have we use the replace approach for this thing, or we can maybe look to have a way to work with the realms and packages in the same module, right? So you have both, and you have a way to distinguish between one or the other. Maybe if you have a P directory, it is assumed that directory is for the packages. I mean, this makes it very messy, how this whole thing works. But I'm just spitballing, right?
Okay. Can I get input from other people?
Yeah. So, in my opinion, and from the use of GnoDev, because I implement a minimal resolver in GnoDev, which is basically chaining. It's a chaining resolving system, taking one priority and then using the other. I like thinking when I was doing this, you don't GnoDev take itself the choice wherever you are. So if you're on monorepo, you're doing something, and if you're outside, you're doing something. And I think this is much more for people working outside the monorepo. So creating a new project outside and having some hierarchy inside their project with multiple package, and depending also on some chain package. So I think it basically work like this. When you work outside, you work with your project, and you work also with one dependency, which can be Gno.land or any other chain. But so yeah, there is usually you have two main dependencies. like the one on your project. So we have to resolve your project generally first, and then a remote chain, or is there like the monorepo, for example, a directory that holds the other root? I guess like in most way you don't specifically need a Go work or anything, but I don't think it's bad like to support it for some specific case for specific people that just to specific dependency. But I guess it should work out of the box, especially like work like first with your root project and then work with a monorepo example folder where we actually, I mean, right now it will be like the gno root root, which localize the example folder and work with. Later, it could be like as Go with GitHub.com, which is the base resolving. It could be Gnoland, but you can always like target another chain. But I like the idea of having like one external source where you can fetch all the external package and your dependency. And we can imagine like Gno.work or Gno.mod like specifically made and have some directive like specifically if you want to choose maybe another dependency, but it will be necessarily for debug or something. I don't see the point of having like multiple source except for debug, but that can make sense. But for me, like right now, it should only be for debug. And the last thing, .git to me was much more like as a fallback, especially when you just bootstrap project and you don't want to think about anything. It cannot be like a main solution, but it definitely to me could be like a simple fallback, as like from example Emacs have a .projectile or .git to detect if it's a project. I think VS Code it's the same way. It generally uses as a fallback like to detect if you are in a workspace, like Norman said. So yeah, in my opinion, to TLDR, workspace should take into account the current directory if you are outside the monorepo. Or maybe later it could change, but right now it's mostly the case. And another source should be like by default, right now it should be gno.root. In the future, I think it will be gno.land as a main root. Does that make sense?
Actually, in the config that you can pass to the package loader, I have an extra dependency root argument where you can pass a list of patterns that will be looked only for dependency, and in this case you can pass the gno root for this type of things.
You mean in your implementation, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but for the using the current working directory, I really think is not a good idea because it will confuse Golang engineers coming to Gno. You know, you're used to like you can cd in subdirectories in your repo, run go test dot and stuff like that. And if we use the current working directory, it will change how dependencies are resolved depending on where you are. You know.
So you mean to define what is a workspace, but you can always, I think, like find a route like somehow. The GNO mod is enough to me. I think for this particular case, to me the GNO work will really like to define something outside the workspace, because like GNO mod should be enough if you put it at the root now, and .git will also work as a fallback, I guess. What should GNO work should be like some. Oh, okay. So GNO work you have nothing inside your GNO work, right? It's just you touch it and it's defined a root. Yeah, I mean
it could be named or something else, you know. But it's really about the problem with the single GNO mod is really forcing hierarchy. It forces you to have, for example, it's like GNO. If you have a GNO repo with different languages, usually what we do is to have a GNO directory and then p/things, r/things, and it would force you. It would force you to have like GNO. So GNO directory, you put a single GNO mod with with a Gno.land, and then you have p /your package /your namespace /your packages r /your namespace /your packages, and it forces this hierarchy. we can do that, but I'm not sure. Like for example, if you have a simple two directory, or you want to put all your things, like I don't think imposing hierarchy is a good thing, but we can do that. It's okay if everyone agree.
I think to me, I think I like it, like having a specific hierarchy. I think I did it maybe intuitively when I did like the resolving on GnoDev, but like having like Gno.land / as a hierarchy, not even starting by /r/p, but this can change. But just having like Gno.land on all the paths of your repo, like naturally. I feel it's cool to have like a specific hierarchy. It's intuitive, and we are not in case of Go. And you are talking about Go work, but Go work actually it's still something I feel really confusing for Go developer. Is because I feel like nobody understands what it's used for. It's not something you should push. Actually, it's something almost used for debugging to specify a relationship with a directory on your project globally. But it's not something you have to push. So I'm not even sure it's really linked with what you describe with the project. But I get what you wanted. I get you wanted to describe your workspace, but for even for Golang, like it's not clear what it's used for.
Okay, we could name it
I'm not sure.
something else. We can name it something else. For if it's naming the problem, we can name it something else.
But if we have like a specific hierarchy, we don't even need a Go work actually, because it will be either the current directory, or if you are in a child directory, you can, since you have a specific hierarchy, you can definitely come back to the root easily and detect your current project. I don't think it could be really a problem. But we can still discuss about this if you want.
Well, it still forces to CD. It still forces to CD. Like it's the 2 points I make, but maybe you don't. It's okay, but you also have to CD. For example, for the Gno monorepo, you would have to CD in example Gno.land before running any commands, any Gno commands. And if you have a multiple language monorepo, you have to CD in your Gno directory before running any Gno commands. It's not. It's okay, but it will.
We are far from a multi-language. Okay, you mean like your front end and everything, and then you have a Gno.land, Gno.land thing. So you're just describing like, but I mean that's okay. You can lot of language, like if you have your JS and your packages and inside your Gno.land things. I mean you have to go to your to where your packages are here to run your build or whatever you want. I mean. That would be okay. I mean, but yeah, I get your point. I'm gonna think about this also.
No, but I think you all agree, and then maybe someone else want to chime in, and if not, I will go for the second option, like Morgan wants, and you agree. So also, someone.
Do we have an issue? Because I remember writing something in an issue. Basically, the TLDR, if I'm not wrong, was we are too much trying to fix today and not looking at the future. GNOroot makes sense just because we are not downloading packages, but technically we can already download packages based on the domain name. We could imagine I start a new repo right now. I just have the GNO binary. I don't have the repository, the GNO repository. I have a .git file. Maybe I have GNO mod. Maybe I don't. Actually, I don't care that much. But I try to run a code depending on something that I don't have locally. I download it and put it in my /GNO mod pkg something. So
this is really about local dependencies. This whole question is really about
GNOroot is a non-problem because when you work on GNOroot stuff, you are in GNOroot, so you are kind of in a remote repository where everything on chain is also available locally. And when you are when you are working on a non-monorepo, you expect to have most of your dependencies either on-chain because they are not yours, or to have your dependencies in the same repository. If ever you are the kind of guy who like making 1,000 repositories because you want one repository per package, I'm very sad for you. But
it's really about local dependency.
Let's say you want to do this.
It's not about
you should have a replace directive to allow you to do custom stuff. The replace directive is a thing about saying, in my configuration, in my system, I want to load something from // whatever it is.
Okay. The
GNOME file does not
we are
make
seeing right now.
the GNOME file does not make any sense for the chain for the chain. No sense is once you are on chain, a package as a global unique identifier. We can have 1,000 GNO chains running. Gno.land/p/avl is the same everywhere. So GNOME only makes sense when you are developing locally to help the tools to explicitly
Yes, but this is
say,
about the tools.
I'm looking for this. So
This is
what you are looking for is to have your repository config to either load from something which you're not touching. The case of Guilhem about debugging, okay, fine, just download the dependency and add some printf debugging or whatever. You can download AVL locally and say, just for me, I want AVL to not be the one on chain, but / custom AVL. So you can still make the custom stuff thanks to the replace directive. So this is, in my opinion, how we will fix everything, by expecting to download missing stuff when it's available, and by just allowing, as soon as you have some replace directive on some .git file or GNOME mod, to first look at the local file. So if you have everything in a single repository, it should be the highest priority. If you have something outside of your repository, then you start doing custom replace directive with // for everything which is not on chain and not in your repository. I think this is how we can solve everything, just the replace directive, and most of the time, not having to use it at all, because you work in your repository or with official dependencies. GNO root will disappear, or we can keep it, but as an optimization or whatever, but we don't need it.
Okay, but this wasn't about remote dependencies or resolving remote dependencies. It was really about resolving dependencies in a single repo.
Yeah, this is the part where I just don't care about if we use .git, GNOME, etc. It's about being explicit for the tool, but really start by taking the concept that remote stuff and GNO root are managed the same way, so that now you have two choices: either your repository is self-containing, except the official dependencies, and then it's up to you to decide if you want a GNOME mod a single GNOME mod at the top of your Git repository, and make like relative package names, or if you want one GNOME mod per file, or a GNO work, or maybe the .git file. And if ever you want to have a custom layout, like not r/p/, but something custom, or if ever you want to have something which is not on chain and not in this repo, then you can use the replace directive. We can have an opinionated way of having Git repo, which is the idiomatic GNO way of organizing a repository. And then replace directive is for exceptions, whatever they are. We need the replace directive just for the case Guilhem said. If you want a custom AVL package, you won't upload temporarily another package, you can just patch it at your debugging, but then you expect not uploading it because it was just for debugging.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for coming.
Also,
We're a bit over time, but it was a good conversation.
Just start really simple and keep it, and just have in mind like you can like make things like evolve based on the usage. I think like it will be easy, like if you make this thing right, it should be easy to implement other resolving system with time. But we can always adapt this with usage. So best thing to do is keep things simple at first and then make it evolve based on the usage.
Yeah, but the initial task was to put in common all the package loading behaviors across multiple tools. So doing something simple is not like really possible, but yeah, of course, I try to keep it simple. I am already trying that as much as I can.
Right. Thank you all, and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.